So, the light has definitely lost a lot of its benevolence over the years. However, all of us were shocked back in Legion when we saw that there was an actual Dreadlord that served the Light Army, and we all thought it was just impossible. There is no way a Dreadlord can serve the Light. However, with the recent turn of events, we may have been right in our initial reaction. Nathrezim planets at the Shadowlands confirmed that they have an agent inside. Even more interestingly, this Dreadlord actually recruited Turalyon and Alleria, and Turalyon is currently the Alliance leader, and Alleria brought the widespread void practice to Azeroth, which makes you really think, was Lothraxxion really reformed, or is it all just a part of a big master plan that will happen anytime soon? You must have wiped out a million times in your WoW years, but you probably didn't have Squad OE with you. And this is an app that records your instances automatically, and you can see your complete performance from spell visualizations to death recaps, and best of all, it is free. You don't have to do anything but install it, and you can share yours and watch your friend's perspective. So use my link in the description and check out Squad OE. I know this might really seem like old news at this point, but just hear me out. I feel like we might actually be onto something really cool here, especially now with the recent happenings within Azeroth, as well as the next expansion that might be announced any day now. So, all of you remember Lothraxxion. This is a Dreadlord that shocked all of us as we literally saw a nathrezim we previously thought were just demons, just brimming with light with a really unique look. Well, back in Legion, Lothraxxion gave us his backstory, which more than likely was just complete BS. Now, I don't personally think it is a lie. I think most of it is true, but it's like the thing where he says a part of the truth to gain our trust while hiding his actual true motives, his actual true goal. So, the official story was that he was a demon, a member of the Burning Legion, and he hunted down creatures of the void, and ultimately he was killed by the mysterious Locust Walker. Now, as he was defeated outside the Twisted Nether on purpose, he was able to regenerate, and apparently he then came to this grand realization that there was a mission for Lothraxxion, and he was to join the Army of the Light, the organization that goes around as the survivors of the worlds ravaged by the Legion, but really, it is the striking fist of the Light as a cosmological force. Now, with the most recent Shadowlands stuff, you may be thinking, yeah, right. In regards to the story, I can't believe they really bought into this. But did they really believe Lothraxxion? But really, the books and what we learned about the nathrezim completely make this line of thinking plausible. Check this out. The nathrezim were created by the Nathrez in order to further the interests of death, but mainly his own, and he literally used them for thousands and thousands of years to infiltrate the various cosmological forces. He was super successful, as his Dreadlords actually created the Burning Legion that Lothraxxion joined, but he later used an excuse to say how he was doing the wrong things this entire time. Now, not to bore you with the details, a big catastrophe happened in Revendred. Dreadlords tried to brute force infiltrate the Light, or they did it as they did it with the other forces. It completely backfired, and the Light launched that massive invasion that taught them quite a serious lesson. A civil war almost broke out, and the Nathrez was forced to publicly exile the nathrezim, but really, that was just for show. He instead kept them on the world of Nathreza, and they continued to do the work just as more secret agents instead of regular soldiers. Now, I don't doubt the Dreadlords were demons. They infiltrated the region really well, and really, it's not that hard to become a demon if you're infused with a bit too much fel magic. That happened to everyone. Plus, they literally said in the book that taking fel was not easy, but they had to do it. So, after things calmed down a bit, the Nathrez decided to order the infiltration of the Light once again, despite what happened before, and the book, Enemy Infiltration, which is the Nathrezim report, reveals that this time they hit the target and they were successful. The book says, and I quote, "Similar to the Titans, the Naru and their keepers are singular in purpose. Their adherence to a linear path is an obvious shortcoming. They savor nothing more than being proved right. So if they believe they have converted one of us to their precious light, they will trust that agent implicitly." So, when you read this, it's like all the puzzle pieces fall into place. Light is a very black and white force. I know how ridiculous that sounds. They may seem benevolent to us, and they kinda are, as they are a bit closer to life than the Void, for example, but they really don't like critical thinking. The Naru, xe'ra, essentially imprisoned Alleria just for entertaining thoughts about the Void. So Lothraxxion realized this and he decided he needs to just brainwash himself. He needs to come up with a genuine sob story about how he was on the wrong path before, and now he sees that there is only one true path. That really strokes the ego of the light when you say this is the true path. Now, a good counter argument is that xe'ra wasn't all that easy to fool and she can pretty much just read minds, but I really don't think that is that great of an argument. Seriously, remember Illidan? xe'ra tried to turn him into a light demon hunter. Well, Lothraxxion knew if he was to gain trust, he needed to allow that to happen. Also, these are the Dreadlords, they're the biggest masterminds in the universe, so obviously they must have had techniques to hide their actual thoughts and forms. So really, at this point, I'm 99% certain that Lothraxxion is literally just a dev sleeper agent ready to start something really big anytime soon. What that is uncertain, but really, let's look at some of the most critical points that we have. So first of all, some slight 9.2 spoilers. When we reveal this Automa language, we get a bunch of philosophical lines that talks about how the light and the void are two sides of the same coin, and it also kind of mentions their conflict. Then we have the official WoW website where Wellin's description literally says he anticipates that Azeroth will become a large battlefield for the void and the light. Now on to the most interesting bits. So remember that Turalyon and Alleria disappeared all those years ago? Well, it was actually Lothraxxion that recruited them to the army of the light, and even that is just suspicious in itself. Like, why would he pick them out of everyone? Now let's examine what his recruits had done. Turalyon became the leader of the army, pretty much the most important person with the light, and Alleria started to normalize the void back on Azeroth and to bring us to become practitioners. Even more interestingly, Turalyon is currently the leader of the most powerful faction on Azeroth. To top this all off, we have your realm that essentially took over alternate Draenor, and now there is an entire Draenor light army just beyond the dark portal, which could be opened any moment now. So really, what do you think? Lothraxxion brings up a guy that has the most influence over one of the faction's military and is the leader of the massive cosmological army, and on the other hand, he brings Alleria to give an entry point into the void. So it's almost like he's doing what every Dreadlord does best, playing off one cosmological force against each other. Dreadlords pretty much did this every time. For example, they played off Order and the Void, which led to the formation of the Legion and just countless universe-wide destruction. Now, we know all Dreadlords ultimately serve the nathrezim and he is nowhere to be found. We don't see much of him anywhere in 9.2, at least thus far, so what if his role is actually planned to happen after Shadowlands? What if Lothraxxion is really trying to soften up Azeroth for a light versus void conflict that is about to come? Because we all learned within Zeret Mortis that the world soul here is a connection, so what if they have finally come to claim the soul directly in their own missions? We have the fanatical light infiltrated with the Alliance, void with the Horde, and we know the factions recently united. Blizzard confirmed that there won't be a large-scale faction war, so we have these two forces trying to weaken us from the inside. I know this seems a bit outlandish, but really, when you think about it, it isn't really that outlandish, and this has been an expansion speculation for a really long time. Lothraxxion also hasn't been present in the Shadowlands, and aside from all the manipulation and scheming stuff, he is also personally highly ranked within the light army as well, so he may also be doing stuff directly. Ultimately, all with the goal of weakening the light, the void, and Azeroth, so that he, together with his master, can just swoop in and take the true prize. Thank you for watching. Check out these the next videos by clicking on the screen, and check out Doronsmovies Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.